Our economic system is predicated on competition, while our schooling from the earliest grades trains us not only to triumph over others, but to regard them as obstacles to our own success. 64,000 is the median number of words per book. Average person reads about 200 words per minute. Simple math will tell us that is one book in 320 minutes. To accomplish this in 7 days, numbers say you would have to read for 45 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit that notification button, like, comment, and share. Enjoy. Welcome to the Book of the Week series. Every week as I read another amazing title, I share it with the world. My name is Igor S.F. Walker. Today we look at No Contest, the case against competition by Alfie Kohn. So how about you slow down and relax? Reduce all that noise for just a bit. Make that choice and decide to listen. In this video, we look at a book that, following the lead of most social psychologists, considers 3 ways of achieving one's goals. Competitively, which means working against others. Cooperatively, which means working with others. And independently, which means working without regard to others. Stick around till the end. I will share with you some tools I do have and use that will help you tremendously in this game of life. Discover a way to find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. I will share some tools to improve your self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, and relationship management. Not only do we get carried away with competitive activities, but we turn almost everything else into a contest. Our collective creativity seems to be tied up in devising new ways to produce winners and losers. It is not enough that we struggle against our colleagues at work to be more productive, but we also must compete for the title of the friendliest employee. No corner of our lives is too trivial or too important to be exempt from the compulsion to rank ourselves against one another. Even when no explicit contest has been set up, we tend to construe the world in competitive terms. I think it is useful to distinguish between what might be called structural competition and intentional competition. The former refers to a situation, the latter refers to an attitude. Whereas structural competition has to do with win-lose framework, which is external. Intentional competition is actually internal. It concerns the desire of an individual to be number one. To say that an activity is structurally competitive is to say that it is categorized and characterized by what Kohn calls mutually exclusive goal attainment, MEGA, mega for short. If one of us must lose exactly as much as the other wins, as in poker for instance, then we are thinking about zero-sum game. But in any mega arrangement, mutually exclusive goal attainment, 2 or more individuals are trying to achieve a goal that cannot be achieved by all of them. This is the essence of competition, as several social scientists have observed. The competition itself sets the goal, which is to win. Scarcity is thereby created out of nothing. It should be clear, however, that these orientations do not appear with the same frequency. Notice how often cooperation in our society is in the service of competition, and how often we must compete without being able to cooperate at all. As Robert Bella and his colleagues put it, the world of individualistic competition is experienced every day. The world of harmonious unanimity is fully realized only in sporadic flashes of togetherness, glimpses of what might be if only people would cooperate, and their purpose would be reinforced rather than undercut one another. The case for competition, as most of us have learned it, does not stand up under close scrutiny. It is a case that relies on rhetorical gambits, such as the insinuation that people who oppose competition are simply afraid, or on a lack of conceptual precision, such as the confusion of competition and conflict with one another, or with success. The confusion of competition with conflict or with success. The case for competition is based on a great deal of misinformation. Specifically, it has been constructed on 4 central myths, and these myths, in the order of their popularity, are: the first myth is that competition is unavoidable fact of life, part of human nature. A myth. The second myth is that competition motivates us to do our best, or, in stronger form, that we would cease being productive if we did not compete. A myth. Third, it is sometimes asserted that contests provide the best, if not the only, way to have a good time. All the joys of play are set to hinge on competitive games. And finally, the fourth and the last myth is that competition builds character that is good for self-confidence. A bunch of misinformation, a bunch of myths. The more closely I have examined this thing, the more firmly I have become convinced that competition is an inherently undesirable arrangement, where a phrase healthy competition is a contradictory term. It is actually nothing short of heresy, because only 2 positions on the question are normally recognized: enthusiastic support and qualified support. Broadly speaking, the former can be called the conservative position and the latter liberal. David and Roger Johnson and their colleagues published a far more ambitious meta-analysis, that is, a review of others' findings, in 1981, in what is surely one of the most conclusive surveys of its kind. They reviewed 12A studies from 1924 to 1980, only one of which overlaps with Deutsches List, incidentally. Including every North American study, they provide that considered achievement or performance data in competitive, cooperative, and or individualistic structure. The remarkable results, 65 studies, found that cooperation promotes higher achievement than competition. 8 found the reverse, and 36 found no statistical significant difference. Cooperation promoted higher achievement than independent work in 108 studies, while 6 found the reverse and 42 found no difference. The superiority of cooperation held for all subject areas and all age groups. There was absolutely no evidence to suggest that people work more productively when rewards are tied to performance. then when everyone gets the same reward. But for those tasks, the success depends on working together. There was a clear difference. A system of equal rewards, Deutsch discovered, gives the best results. And the competitive winner-take-all system gives actually the poorest results. More recent research confirms that significantly more complex products were made in the cooperative conditions than in the competitive conditions. And that the discussion process in cooperative groups promoted discovery and development of higher quality cognitive strategies for learning than does the individual reasoning found in the competitive and individualistic learning situations. So far, for making us more productive than a structure that pits us against one another tends to inhibit our performance. Cooperation means more than just putting people into groups. It suggests rather group participation in a project where the result is a product of the effort, where the goal is shared and each member's success is linked with every other's. Setting reporters against one another in a battle for space on the front page or the first block of a television news show shows probably lower the quality of journalism in the long run. So too does the contest amongst news organizations for subscriptions or for ratings. The latter is more likely to take the form of sensationalism, arresting graphics, or promotional games. A thorough study of science news reporting, which included interviews with 27 leading science reporters, led Jay Winston to conclude the following. The most striking finding, which emerged from the interviews, is the dominant, distorting influence of the competitive force in journalism. Science reporters, based at preeminent publications, stated that competition for prominent display of their stories actually creates a strong motivation to distort the information and their coverage. Having to compete for space creates an incentive not for accurate reporting, but for hyping a story that is exaggerating its significance. This tendency, Winston adds, is actually complemented by the competition for publicity amongst scientists, hospitals, and universities. A combination practically assures that reporting will be distorted. The simplest way to understand why competition generally does not promote excellence is to realize that trying to do well and trying to beat others are two different things. Actually, the pursuit of victory works to reduce the chance for excellence in the true performance of the sport. It tends to distract our attention from excellence of performance by rendering it subservient to emerging victorious. I suspect that our conventional mistake of presuming the opposite, presuming that the contest for prize framework and excellence of performance are somehow related, is as a unique cause and effect, maybe the deepest lying prejudice of civilized thought. Doing well, as we saw earlier, is different from doing better than others. This is nowhere clearer than in the case of their respective motivations. All of us enjoy a sense of accomplishment. It comes when we are particularly good at something. Sometimes it is convenient to assess that performance by comparing it to those of other people. But the individual feels good about herself and is simply interested in doing well, does not go out of her way to outperform others. She does not seek our relative judgments. The desire to do better than others feels quite different from the desire to do well. If competition has a voice, it is the defiant whine of a child. Anything you can do, I can do better. In a competitive society is a chorus of such voices. The obvious way to verify that competition is more a need than a desire is to see what happens when a competitive person is deprived of a chance to compete, or, since the need to compete is really the need to win, we can watch what happens when such an individual loses. The result is more reminiscent of depriving a hungry person of supper than of removing a choice dish from the gourmet. If competitiveness is inherently compensatory, if it's an effort to prove oneself and stave off feeling of worthlessness, it follows that the healthier the individual, in the sense of having a more solid, unconditional sense of self-esteem, the less need there is to compete. The implication, we might say, is that the real alternative to being number one is not being number two, but being psychologically free enough to dispense with rankings altogether. Now, at this point, let me recall the distinction between pursuing a goal independently and pursuing it competitively. Obviously, the former is not conducive to relationships, since interaction is actually ruled out. My success and your success are totally separate, so I do not have to have anything to do with you. But competition entails a kind of a perverse interdependence. Our fates are linked in that I cannot succeed unless you fail. Thus, I regard you merely as someone over whom to triumph, because you are my rival. You are an it to me, an object, something I use for my own ends. This dynamic is found in virtually all exploitative relationships. From competitors, the objectification is doubled. A prospect for relationship is actually twice removed. A pro football player writes, "We were really fired up and we felt we were going to annihilate them. I particularly didn't want to see their faces, because the more anonymous they were, the better it was for me. And I am sure most of the other ball players felt the same way. They were actually a faceless enemy we had to meet. Depriving adversaries of personalities, of faces, of their subjectivity is a strategy we automatically adopt in order to win. To envy another person is to envy what they have and then resenting them for having it. But desire is largely a social creation, and so is the distribution of what is valued. Competition is the worst possible arrangement as far as relationships are concerned. There may be drawbacks to working or playing or learning independently, but at least this does not place us in the position of viewing each other as enemies. Cooperative experiences promote more positive relationships amongst individuals from different ethnic backgrounds, between handicapped and non-handicapped individuals, more homogeneous individuals, than do the alternative arrangements. Cooperation with intergroup competition, interpersonal competition, and individualistic experience, encouragement given. Research by Brenda Bryant discovered that children who worked cooperatively more actively encouraged and supported the self-enhancement of others than children from a competitive or individualistic learning environment. Encouragement received, other studies have shown that students perceive such encouragement and support from their peers in a cooperative setup. Perspective taking. Cooperation is by far the best way to promote perspective taking. People tend to see things from the other person's point of view when they are working with them rather than working against each other. The very stress on individualism, competition, on achieving material success, which so marks our society, also generates intense pressures to cut corners, to win an election, to increase one's income, to outsell competitors. Such motives impel many to participate in forms of this duplicity they might otherwise resist. Perversity they might resist. They judge these practices to be, the stronger will be the pressure to join, even to compete in deviousness. Making our society less competitive ultimately depends on reducing structural competition. Unfortunately, bringing about structural change of any kind requires overcoming enormous resistance. It is much easier to describe how change can be blocked than how it can actually be furthered. Social skills such as learning to listen carefully, to make eye contact, and to criticize someone's ideas without being insulting can be taught, just as reading can be taught. Cooperative learning gives students an active role in deciding about, planning, directing, and controlling the content and pace of their learning activities. It changes the students' role from a recipient of information to seekers, analyzers, synthesizers of information. It actually transforms pupils from listeners into talkers and doers, from powerless pawns into participant citizens, empowered to influence decisions about how they must attend school. The governing clamor to make hospitals, schools, industries, and now even government more competitive raises once again the question of whether this goal has anything to do with achieving excellence, or whether we have simply blurred the two ideas, overlooking what should be an obvious fact, that beating others and doing quality work are two completely different concepts. Whether the first leads to the second is a legitimate question, but the answer, contrary to the conventional wisdom, is that almost always it does not. What does lead to excellence then? This depends on what field and what task we are talking about, but generally we find that people do terrific work when, 1, we are inspired, challenged, and excited by what we are doing, and number 2, people receive social support and are able to exchange ideas and collaborate effectively with others. The data show that competition makes both less likely. And there you have it. No contest. The case against competition. Now please do help out. It is easy. Simply like this video so more people can enjoy it. Share it too and spread the word. Do leave a comment and share your thoughts. Start a conversation. Subscribe to my channel and stay up to date. And the link to this book is in the description below. So buy it, read, never stop learning, especially learning about yourself and nature. So gift yourself by taking the free human needs test on my website. Find out what actually motivates you, what innate human need is driving all of your decisions and your behavior. And if you are ready to improve your self-awareness, your social awareness, your self-management and relationship management even further, do check out my Master of Life Awareness program. The links are in the description below. Thank you. Love and respect.